Rev up your engines! Sherwin Arpia says, Scotty, what car's more reliable, the Mazda Miata or the Scion TC? I'd say the Mazda Miata on that because the Scions, a bunch of them had those 2.4-liter engines that burn oil. The Mazda Miatas, if you take care of them, don't burn oil. They didn't have any engine problems. They had some bad engine castings when they first made them, but that was 3 decades ago. Miata is the most reliable car that Mazda makes by far. I would get one if I wanted a little cute little sports car. Of course, you know, one is not really a sports car. The Scion TC is kind of sportish, but it's not really a sports car. Pascal Robert says, Scotty, what do you think about Peugeot's coming back to the U.S.? All right, they pulled out decades ago. Americans didn't like them. I think if they came back, it'd be another big mistake because look at Fiat. They pulled out decades ago. They came back, and now they're getting ready to pull out again because Americans won't buy their crap. Americans don't particularly like French cars. When they were here, they were a niche car. A few people bought them, but there weren't enough parts. Nobody knew how to fix them, and then they just left the country. Same thing with Alfa Romeo. They were here. They left. They came back now, and they're having a hard time selling the things because they don't work all that well. They're expensive to fix. When you do need to get them fixed, hardly anybody knows how to work on an Alfa Romeo in the United States, so they don't get fixed right, and then people just give up on them. So look at just the sales records of them coming back, and you'll see I wouldn't see Peugeot doing it unless it was pure electric cars because they're pushing that electric crap on the electric bandwagon. I could see them bringing electric cars in, but not regular gasoline or diesel cars. Kier Soze says, Morning, Uncle Scotty, what's your advice for changing tire size on cars? For example, a Camry 2011 LE. The original is 215s. I want to change it to 225 60/16. You can. It's not that much of a difference, but I'm not a big fan of that. Toyota and all the other companies engineer them for a certain size tire, for a ride, for handling. Why do you want to change it? It was designed for one type of tire. Those engineers, especially the Japanese ones, they know what they're doing. I wouldn't mess with it myself. Now, there are apps. I have fancy computers that when people change their tires, I can go in and I can reset it so it tries to make it work good with that size tire and the speedometer, the right speed, and all that crap, right? I don't advise it because the engineers know what they're doing, and it's the one that's on it is best for all-round drive. Dracarus says, Scotty, my front turn signals and hazards don't work, but the rear ones are fine. Could it be a fuse problem? What do you think it is? All right, I got if it's a fuse problem because the turn signals are fused for the turn signals, so they all wouldn't work. What you probably have is, since the front ones don't work and the back ones do, as long as it's not just bulbs, of course, check the bulbs. You could just have burnout bulbs. It'd be that simple. Put new bulbs in. But if it's not the bulbs, then usually what it is a ground wire fault. Realize you have to have power, positive, but you also have ground, negative, to make the light bulbs light up. And if you lose grounding, you'll lose all the lights in the front. So let's say the front ground went out for the turn signals. Then the front ones wouldn't work, but the back ones would, because the grounding for the back ones is in the back, and the grounding for the front ones are in the front. It's not going to be a fuse, because the fuses work the whole system, not front versus back. They work the whole thing. Damien says, Scotty, hope you're doing great. What's the worst car you ever worked on? Well, I have to say the worst car I ever worked on was an old Porsche. It was old, but it was new enough that it had a plastic intake manifold. All right? And the intake manifold gaskets leaked on those things all the time because you had plastic bolted onto an aluminum head. They went bad all the time. I had a customer with one, and he was a typical Porsche owner. You know, the old joke goes, what's the difference between a Porsche and a porcupine? The porcupine has the pricks on the outside. Well, he was one of those guys. I actually got the intake manifold on without pulling the engine. I talked to a Porsche mechanic. He said, how the heck did you do that? We just pulled the engines out. I never placed to pull the engine. I was at the guy's house doing it, right? And he said, we don't care. We just charge them thousands labor. Too bad. They want to buy the stupid things. They're going to pay through the nose to fix them. So that was the worst car I ever worked on. George Strobel says, Scotty, what's your opinion of a two-wheel drive truck in the snow? If they're rear-wheel drive, they have a tendency of spinning around. They just do donuts. Kids love them because they can do donuts in the snow, right? A machine is much better if you're pulling it with front-wheel drive than pushing it with rear wheels. The new Ford Maverick trucks, the ones that are two-wheel drive, are just front-wheel drive. They won't have that problem, which is why you see a bunch of guys with pickup trucks in the winter. They'll put bags of salt or sand in the back because the engine's in the front, the wheels are in the back that drive it, and there's not enough weight on them. That puts more weight on them. But it's still a less efficient way, and they'll fishtail and they'll corner and they'll slide in the snow more than a front-wheel drive vehicle will. That's just the way that it goes. Most guys that are serious with pickup trucks, if they're going to plow and stuff, they'll have four-wheel drive. Then they don't have to worry about it because all the wheels are driving it. JD says our Hummer H2 vehicle is worth buying given the parts are tough to find, like replacing the controller. My neighbor's got one. He's got one of only 550 made of this fancy model. And it's worth a ton of money. People are always trying to buy it from him. He went to an Alabama football game. They tried to bribe him by letting him meet the coach, going to the ground, getting passes. He still didn't sell them the thing. Those are worth a lot of money if you take care of them. They still have available parts for most things. Engines, transmissions, you name it. They're just GM. But yeah, when you get down to specific electronic parts, it can be a pain in the butt. So most people aren't going to get an H2 for an everyday driver. They're going to get them for a toy. You get them for a toy, hey, it's a toy. You expect to have problems getting parts for them sometimes. It's just the way that it goes. You know, there's nothing you can do about that. So I would basically say it's okay for a toy, but for an everyday driver, yeah, there's some of the parts you're going to have a hard time getting hold of. Francis Beelan says, Scotty, my 93 Corolla steering wheel is growling like mad when turned, especially at low speeds. Help. Check to see if you're low on fluid. If you aren't, it means that your system's probably somewhat gunked up because it's growling. Watch my video. How to fix binding power steering. Scotty, you can flush the system out. And my old Celica used to growl like that in the cold weather. Flushed it out, then I switched the fluid to a pure synthetic. So when you put new fluid after you flush it out, put pure synthetic power steering fluid because it flows better in the cold weather. You probably find the growling goes away. Now, if it doesn't, you're going to have to replace the pump. But the flushing and using synthetic fluid often fixes it. I did it on my 94 Celica, and it worked fine. It's still doing it. It doesn't grind. James South says, Scotty, when I see the letters ASC sign at a shop, will the mechanic be more knowledgeable? Okay, ASC is a certification group, right? It says they take courses and they pass a test. But understand one thing. There's a big difference between book learning and real, actual fixing learning. My father hired a mechanic, and he had ASC certification ages ago, right? He was a terrible mechanic. He could read and take tests, but he didn't know how to fix vehicles. He wasn't any good at it at all. All depends on the person themselves. If somebody is really good at fixing things, they get certified, fine. I met guys that did the certification 4 years ago, and I asked them, what's passing on your test? And passing was like 50%, so not exactly the certification doesn't mean that much. The problem is shops want to have that sign, right? Makes them look professional. So a lot of the stuff is pretty much watered down. Doesn't necessarily mean all that much. You know, any system like that is bound for corruption. That's just the way that it goes. I can't help but laugh. GM now has Android Automotive, the Google, right? They're bragging about, oh, we have that now. Well, guess what? People had that stuff ages ago. I got an Android, my 07 Matrix that I put in a long time ago. It only cost me $150. It basically shows you how far behind the time the auto manufacturers are, especially GM. Now, granted, they call it Android Automotive, where you can control all kinds of stuff, right, with the Google Play. The problem with these automotive guys are they take so long to make their mind up. By the time they get something going, it's already old technology. They're basically loading the car with the phone operating system, right? I've been using my smartphone on my 07 Matrix with the Android I put on years ago, you know. They act like this is something new. They take so long, and of course they got to pay Google money rights for the stuff, so, you know, they start bragging about stuff that for the techies, hey, that's old school. It's not even that interesting for anybody who follows this stuff. Now, since car development usually takes about 5 years, by the time this thing has rolled into GM, it's old hat. For example, this GM, one of the Android systems that was checked out is called General Motors Infotainment 3.7, which uses a 5-year-old Intel chip, an Atom A3960 if you're into techie stuff. So it's just a 5-year-old chip, you know. I'm always trying out new scan tools, and what I find is the good new scan tools are much better because they have faster operating systems, better chips. They're not as slow as the old ones. I can hook up an old $7,000 one to a car, and I can get a new $350 scan tool that's faster because they upgrade all the systems, right? Because that's competition. There's competition in scan tools, all kinds of companies, right? Well, these car manufacturers, they're such dinosaurs. By the time it takes them 5 years to develop something, they got old stuff in it, a 5-year-old chip. Who's going to buy a new car with a 5-year-old chip if they knew, right? So if you take an expensive $78,000 GM car, you'll find out that your chip is barely faster than a $35 Raspberry Pi 4 that you can get. It's old technology. technology, right? But as usual, GM, they want to use the cheapest thing they can possibly get their hands on. So they decided to use the Atom ones. They're cheap, right? And they have small storage too, so here's what Google says. The thing's going to die in less than 10 years. So, GM, come on. You're bragging about this Android stuff. Could have put a little bit better processor. Don't do it on the cheap. But that's corporation for you. They're always doing it on the cheap. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.